They messed up so badly last year that this year didn't even give them the courage to try. No calls, no texts, no just checking in, no half-hearted apologies disguised as nostalgia. Nothing. Not because they healed, not because they suddenly grew respect, but because deep down they know the damage crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. They know they burned something they can't rebuild, and that awareness sits heavy on them every single day. Last year wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't bad timing. It wasn't miscommunication. It was choice after choice after choice, each one showing you exactly where you stood. They tested limits, ignored boundaries, twisted narratives, and still assumed access was permanent. They gambled on your patience like it was infinite. And when patience finally ran out, they were left staring at the consequences of their own confidence. This year, the silence isn't mutual. It's asymmetrical. You're silent because you're done. They're silent because they're scared. Scared of rejection. Scared of exposure. Scared of hearing the truth out loud. Reaching out would mean acknowledging what they did. It would mean standing in front of the wreckage instead of pretending it never happened. And that takes a level of accountability they don't possess. They replay last year in fragments. Moments where they could have done better and didn't. Conversations where they dismissed your feelings. Times they chose ego over empathy. They remember how sure they were that you'd always be there. That certainty embarrasses them now. Because certainty without respect turns into regret. They know if they reached out, they wouldn't be welcomed the way they once were. They know they lost the version of you who softened endings, who explained departures, who gave closure. This version doesn't negotiate. This version doesn't reopen doors out of nostalgia. This version doesn't respond just to make others feel better. And that's intimidating. So they stay quiet and call it giving space, when really it's fear dressed as maturity. They tell themselves you've moved on and that it's better not to disturb you. But the truth is simpler and harsher. They don't have the nerve to face what they broke. They don't want to hear your calm. They don't want to see your clarity. They don't want to witness how little power they have now. Last year they could still reach you emotionally, still provoke reactions, still influence outcomes. This year they sense something final, something sealed. And finality terrifies people who relied on endless chances. They know an apology now wouldn't land the same. It wouldn't be met with openness. It wouldn't spark conversation. It would float in the air unanswered, just like the last attempts they never made. And being ignored hurts more than being rejected. Rejection still acknowledges existence. Silence confirms irrelevance. They messed up so badly that they removed themselves from your future without you having to say a word. They notice the difference in themselves too, how cautious they are now, how they hesitate before speaking your name, how they avoid places where they might run into you. That avoidance isn't peace, it's shame. It's the quiet understanding that if they saw you, they'd have to confront the contrast between who you are now and how they treated you then. And that contrast is brutal. You're composed. You're grounded. You're no longer seeking validation. You don't need explanations anymore. And people who relied on explaining themselves into forgiveness can't operate without that opening. They tell others they're respecting your space. They frame their absence as restraint. But restraint doesn't come from guilt, it comes from awareness. And awareness came too late. They remember how you used to try, how you communicated, how you asked for clarity instead of conflict. They remember brushing it off, thinking you'd adapt again. They underestimated your limit. And once someone crosses a limit without realizing it, the loss feels sudden, but it isn't. It was building quietly the whole time. This year, they don't reach out because reaching out would mean risking a mirror, and mirrors show people what they don't want to see. They'd have to face how avoidable it all was, how unnecessary the damage was, how easily things could have been different if they'd shown basic respect. But regret without responsibility just turns into silence. They keep tabs from a distance. watching, not interacting, observing your growth without touching it. They see you doing better, and that confirms their fear they can't re-enter without being reminded of what they lost. They don't want to reopen wounds, not yours, theirs. Because if they reached out and you didn't respond, it would finalize the truth they're trying to avoid. They no longer matter in your life. And for people who once felt entitled to your time, that realization is crushing. They messed up so badly last year that courage didn't carry over into this one. You, on the other hand, don't feel the need to reach back. You don't feel unfinished. You don't feel curious. Closure already happened internally. You processed the pain when it was fresh. You learned the lesson while it was costly. You didn't postpone accountability. They did. And now they live with the aftermath. This year feels different because the power dynamic changed. You're no longer the one waiting. They are, but silently. They're waiting for time to soften things, waiting for memory to blur edges, waiting for circumstances to give them an excuse. But deep down, they know no amount of waiting fixes disrespect. You didn't block them out of anger. You didn't disappear to punish them. You didn't ghost for drama. You detached, because staying would have required betraying yourself. That's the part they understand now, and understanding doesn't come with a fix. They think about reaching out sometimes, late at night, on certain dates, when something reminds them of you. They draft messages in their head, then they stop, because they know whatever they say won't undo what they did. And worse, they know you don't need to hear it anymore. Need is power, and they lost that leverage. Last year, they assumed forgiveness was automatic. This year, they're learning forgiveness doesn't guarantee access, especially not after patterns repeat. They don't reach out because they know you see clearly now. You'd hear the apology for what it is: late, self-serving, incomplete. And being seen clearly is terrifying for people who survive by avoiding accountability. So they stay quiet, and you stay unbothered, not because you forgot, not because it didn't hurt, but because you healed past the point of needing acknowledgement. They messed up so badly that silence became the only option left that preserved their dignity. And even that dignity is fragile. You don't celebrate this. You don't feel superior. You simply recognize the truth. Some people don't disappear because they're respectful. They disappear because they're ashamed. And shame doesn't reach out. It hides. The entire year, they will live in regret, not loud regret, not dramatic regret, but the quiet kind that never sleeps. It will follow them through ordinary days. It will sit beside them in the morning when they wake up and realize nothing has changed except the weight in their chest. It will whisper during routine moments, reminding them that what they lost wasn't accidental, it was earned through their own choices. Every month will carry a different flavor of remorse. In the beginning, it will feel like disbelief. They will replay moments, wondering where exactly it went wrong, pretending it was just a misunderstanding. They'll convince themselves that time will soften things, that distance will blur memory. But memory sharpens when it's fueled by guilt. As the weeks pass, regret will become heavier, not because they miss you romantically, but because they miss the version of themselves they were allowed to be around you, the version that felt important, seen, chosen. Losing you means losing that reflection. They'll hesitate before opening old conversations, scrolling but never typing. Their thumbs will hover over the screen, but their pride won't survive the truth. They know if they reached out now, it wouldn't be from confidence, it would be from shame. And shame has a way of silencing even the boldest people. Holidays will hit the hardest, not because of loneliness, but because comparison will expose everything. They'll notice who stayed and who didn't, who grew and who vanished. And in every quiet celebration, there will be an empty space shaped exactly like you. They'll hear your name in places they didn't expect. A song, a memory, a casual mention by someone who doesn't know the history. Each time their chest will tighten not with anger, but with the realization that you moved on without needing closure from them. By mid-year, regret will stop feeling emotional and start feeling structural. It will affect how they trust, how they speak, how they approach new people. Because deep down, they'll know they ruined something real, and real things don't come twice. They won't reach out because they already understand the answer. Silence taught them more than confrontation ever could. Your absence explained everything. Toward the end of the year, the regret will mature. It won't scream anymore. It will sit quietly in the background, a permanent reminder of what happens when you take loyalty lightly and assume people will always stay. They thought they knew you. They thought every layer was mapped, every reaction predictable, every breaking point memorized. What they were not prepared for was the version of you that no longer performs for their understanding. This version doesn't announce growth. It doesn't seek validation. It doesn't demand acknowledgement. It simply exists, and that quiet confidence unsettles them more than confrontation ever did. They keep trying to reconcile the old you with the present you, like two images that refuse to overlap. The kindness they once exploited now stands behind boundaries they can't cross. They expected evolution to keep your softness. What they got instead was precision. They were ready for your anger. They were ready for your sorrow. They were even ready for your revenge. They were not ready for your self-command. You don't prove yourself anymore. And that change alone dismantles the hierarchy they thought they stood on. They still talk as if their influence defines you. What ruins their sleep is realizing your power no longer references them at all. They look for cracks that used to exist. They find armor instead. They expect emotional availability. They meet emotional sovereignty. They thought confidence would make you loud. It made you unbothered. They thought strength would make you aggressive. It made you unreachable. They are unsettled by how calm you are with your own authority. You don't ask permission to take up space in your own life anymore. They feel the shift in rooms before they understand it. Conversations pause. Eyes adjust. The energy recalibrates around you without your consent or request. They used to feel taller around you. Now they feel exposed. They remember when they could shake you with words. Now they measure their speech, unsure which version of you they are speaking to and afraid of provoking the wrong one. This version of you doesn't defend. It observes. It doesn't chase. It chooses. It doesn't collapse. It calculates. They are disturbed by how little you need from them now. Dependency once comforted them. Independence disorients them. They thought they were the standard you measured yourself against. What bends their pride is learning they were only a phase you outgrew. They don't know how to compete with a person who isn't competing at all. Your presence no longer seeks approval, and approval was the last leverage they had. They try to humble you with memories of who you used to be. They don't realize those memories are the exact reason this version was born. They feel irrelevant standing next to your certainty, not because you diminish them, but because you no longer adjust yourself to accommodate their insecurity. They look for hesitation. They find resolve. They look for doubt. They find alignment. They look for the old openings. They find closed systems. They weren't ready for a you who doesn't romanticize struggle anymore. They weren't ready for a you who doesn't confuse intensity with truth. They weren't ready for a you who moves without needing applause. They still live inside the version of you they could manipulate. That world no longer exists. They expected your growth to remain familiar. It didn't. They expected your confidence to be loud enough to mock. It's too silent to touch. They expected your power to need explanation. It doesn't. They feel disarmed by the way you no longer over-explain your decisions. You don't justify departures. You don't narrate peace. They thought your softness made you safe. They didn't consider what happens when softness becomes selective. They fear this version because it can't be guilted back into old patterns. They fear this version because it walks away without announcing exits. They fear this version because it doesn't seek emotional refunds. They fear this version because it remembers everything and still moves forward without bitterness. They try to provoke reactions to confirm you're still reachable. You remain uninterested in being confirmed. They tell themselves you're pretending. They need that belief to survive the truth that you are realer than ever. They don't know how to interact with someone who is no longer emotionally negotiable. They feel destabilized by your steadiness. Your calm interrupts their chaos. They thought your evolution would keep them included. What destabilizes them is realizing growth doesn't offer honorary seats. They weren't ready for a you that no longer shrinks to preserve comfort in others. They weren't ready for a you that chooses ease over endurance. They weren't ready for a you that learned self-respect without losing compassion, but also without giving access. They wanted you powerful but still approachable on their terms. You became powerful on your own. They wanted you healed, but still available to old wounds. You healed in a direction that didn't point back. They weren't ready for a you that doesn't seek closure, they seek forward motion. They weren't ready for a you that doesn't ask, "Is this okay?" They weren't ready for a you that no longer waits to be chosen. This version of you doesn't announce arrival. It simply rearranges the room. And that's why it messes with their head. Because everything they used to rely on to predict you is gone. Because their old power only worked on the old you. Because your silence now carries authority. Because your calm now contains decision. Because your absence now has permanence. They weren't ready for this version because this version no longer needs their permission to exist. They weren't ready for this version because this version doesn't look back. They weren't ready for this version because this version ended their influence without confrontation. They weren't ready for how little they matter to this version. They weren't ready for the kind of power that doesn't threaten. It simply moves on. And that is why this version of you lives rent-free in their mind. Not because you attacked, not because you destroyed, but because you evolved so completely that their reality can't keep up with your direction anymore. And that is the most unsettling kind of dominance there is. They try to pretend they're unfazed, but the change in you unsettles them in ways they can't disguise. Your confidence no longer seeks mirrors in their approval, and that robs them of the role they once played in your reflection. They keep waiting for the old triggers to work, the guilt, the nostalgia, the confusion, but none of it lands. It's like pressing buttons on a machine that has already been powered down. They sense that your peace isn't fragile anymore. It doesn't wobble when tested. It doesn't bend to pressure. It simply holds. And that kind of stability unnerves people who relied on your little cracks. They thought your growth would still orbit them. What bends their pride is realizing your life has found a center that doesn't include their gravity. They replay memories, trying to anchor you back to who you were. They don't understand that memory no longer has permission to trespass in your present. They assumed your softness would always be accessible. They were not prepared for what happens when softness becomes guarded by self-respect instead of hope. They keep checking for emotional reactions like someone tapping glass to see if it's real. Your stillness confirms it is, and that confirmation scares them. They feel like they lost a version of you they believed they owned. They hadn't realized it was always borrowed. They struggle with the idea that your power now comes without noise, loud strength they could challenge. Quiet strength leaves them nowhere to strike. They expected your confidence to need witnesses, but yours doesn't perform, it doesn't persuade, it doesn't recruit. It simply moves as if doubt no longer has citizenship in your decisions. They try to understand when control slipped from their hands. The truth unsettles them most. Control didn't slip, it was returned permanently. They speak about you with confusion now, not authority. The tone has shifted from "I know them" to "I don't recognize them." And that loss of certainty breaks something in their pride. They once believed they shaped you. What shakes them now is realizing pressure shaped you into someone they can't reach. They expected your growth to still seek their validation, What confuses them is how effortlessly you stopped seeking anything from them at all. They feel outpaced not because you rushed ahead, but because you no longer slowed down to keep them comfortable. They tell themselves you're just playing a role. They need that belief to survive the idea that this version of you is permanent. They were ready for your success. They were not ready for your independence. They were ready for your healing. They were not ready for your boundaries. They were ready for your confidence. They were not ready for your non-negotiables. They built their comfort on the assumption that you would always be reachable. What's breaking their mind now is realizing you didn't become unreachable out of spite. You became unreachable out of alignment. And here is the ending they will wrestle with in silence. You didn't change to intimidate them. You didn't grow to prove anything. You didn't evolve to make a statement. They hate you because you never showed up to play by their rules. While they were setting traps, rehearsing lines, sharpening intentions, you were already walking away with the outcome secured. You didn't outfight them. You outgrew the battlefield. They were prepared for resistance, not removal. They expected reactions, not absence. And that's what crushed them. You didn't clash with their plans. You made their plans irrelevant. They hate you because you won without engaging. No arguments, no public breakdown, no emotional leaks, just a quiet shift where suddenly their moves had no opponent. You defeated them the moment you stopped needing validation. Games only work when both sides want something from each other. You wanted nothing and that ended everything. They were still counting points while you closed the scoreboard. They hate you because you didn't underestimate them, you simply didn't fear them. You saw the patterns early, the predictable plays, the recycled manipulation dressed up as strategy. You didn't interrupt them. You let them reveal themselves fully, comfortably, confidently. And while they thought they were setting the stage, you were already mapping the exit. They hate you because you didn't rush. You observed, you listened, you let time expose what effort never could. By the time they were ready to strike, there was nothing left to attack, no access, no leverage, no emotional entry point. They hate you because they prepared for war and found an empty field. You didn't block them out of anger. You outgrew them out of clarity. That distinction matters because anger can be provoked, but clarity cannot. They wanted power over you. You removed yourself from the equation entirely. That's not losing control, that's losing relevance. They hate you because they never got to see you struggle. No panic, no confusion, no begging, just composure. You didn't need to expose them. Their frustration did it for you. Nothing reveals defeat faster than someone screaming at a wall that won't answer back. They hate you because you understood something early. The game only exists if you stay seated at the table. So you stood up. They were still rolling dice when you left the building. They hate you because you didn't try to win their approval. You didn't seek closure from people who caused the damage. You didn't wait for fairness. You decided the outcome yourself. They hate you because you made them feel small without ever trying to. Your calm felt like dominance because it highlighted their chaos. You didn't expose their tactics. You simply refused to respond to them. Silence dismantled what confrontation never could. They hate you because they thought they were clever until they realized you were conscious. They thought they were ahead of you. They didn't know you had already finished the race and stopped running. They hate you because you didn't chase revenge. Revenge would have kept you tied to the same board. You chose freedom instead. They were still plotting your downfall while you were designing your future. They hate you because your absence forced them to face themselves. No distraction, no reactions to feed on, just the echo of their own intentions. You defeated them the moment you stopped explaining yourself. Explanations invite debate. You chose finality. They hate you because you didn't win loudly. You won cleanly. No scars to show off. No trophies to display. Just peace, and that's unbearable to people who survive on conflict. They wanted to see you crack. Instead, they watched you detach with precision. They hate you because they never got the satisfaction of seeing their plan work. All that effort wasted on someone who refused to be affected. You didn't ruin their game. You proved it was never worth playing. They were playing chess. You flipped the board by walking away. They hate you because you never came back to prove anything. No second round, no rematch, no explanation tour. You defeated them before the game even started, because you understood something they never will. The strongest move is refusing to play, a game designed to make you lose. They hate you because they never got confirmation that their strategy mattered. No feedback, no emotional response, no visible damage. It's impossible to feel powerful when the target refuses to register the hit. They built narratives where you were supposed to react on cue. When you didn't, the script collapsed. And nothing enrages manipulators more than an audience that leaves mid-performance. They hate you because you didn't expose their intentions publicly. You let them sit alone with what they planned, forced to face themselves without distraction or applause. You didn't confront them because confrontation would have validated their importance. You denied them that privilege. They hate you because you didn't rush to defend your name. You understood that truth doesn't need urgency, lies do. You didn't correct misconceptions, you let time correct them. Time is ruthless with false confidence. They hate you because you never looked back to check if they noticed your exit. That indifference cut deeper than any insult. They expected resistance to justify escalation. You offered nothing. Escalation without opposition turns inward. They hate you because they were ready to compete, but competition requires two people who care about winning the same prize. You didn't want the prize they offered. You walked away before the rules could be enforced. They hate you because you didn't let fear influence timing. You left exactly when clarity arrived, not when pressure peaked. They thought patience meant weakness. You showed them patience is how patterns reveal themselves. They hate you because you didn't try to look strong. You were strong enough not to perform it. They waited for an emotional reaction to confirm impact. What they got was silence, and silence gives nothing back. They hate you because your life continued smoothly. No visible collapse, no dramatic pause, just momentum. They expected you to lose something by leaving. What you lost was dead weight. They hate you because they couldn't rewrite history once you stopped participating in it. You didn't argue facts. You removed access. Facts matter less when relevance disappears. They hate you because you didn't need closure from them. You created closure by deciding the story was over. They thought you needed the last word. You needed the last step away. They hate you because you didn't stay to prove your worth. You assumed it and moved accordingly. They tried to provoke curiosity. You chose disinterest. They hate you because you didn't underestimate how exhausting games become when no one is playing along. They prepared for emotional warfare. You chose logistical peace. They hate you because they couldn't pull you back with nostalgia. Memory lost its power once reality was clear. They waited for guilt to bring you back. Guilt requires emotional dependency. You dissolved it. They hate you because your silence didn't feel empty, it felt intentional. They tried to re-enter through familiarity. You had already changed the locks internally. They hate you because they lost without understanding how. Confusion lingers longer than defeat. They expected to outmaneuver you. They didn't realize you weren't on the board anymore. They hate you because their energy was spent preparing for someone who had already moved on. You didn't beat them by being louder, smarter, or faster. You beat them by being finished. That's what makes it unbearable. They weren't defeated by force. They were defeated by irrelevance. And that kind of loss doesn't come with recovery. They hate you because even now, long after everything ended, they still replay scenarios where you were supposed to react differently. They imagine arguments that never happened, confrontations that never came, victories they never earned. Your absence robbed them of resolution, and unresolved losses rot from the inside. They keep wondering when you decided they were no longer worth engaging. That question haunts them more than any insult ever could, because it forces them to confront the possibility that the defeat wasn't sudden, it was calculated, quiet, and irreversible. They hate you because you didn't collapse under pressure. Pressure exposes cracks, but all it did was reveal how solid your foundation already was. You didn't harden under stress, you clarified. They expected emotional leakage, a weak moment, a late-night message, something human they could latch onto. What they got instead was consistency. And consistency without attachment feels merciless to people who rely on chaos. They hate you because you didn't circle back once the dust settled. You didn't check if they were okay. You didn't seek mutual understanding. You understood enough the first time. They replay the moment they lost control, trying to pinpoint where the power shifted. They don't realize power didn't shift, it exited. Quietly, permanently. They hate you because you didn't romanticize the struggle. You didn't treat pain like proof of depth. You treated it like information and you acted on it. They expected emotional residue, lingering tension, something to work with. You left nothing behind but clarity, and clarity is sterile. They hate you because your detachment didn't come with bitterness. Bitterness would have kept you accessible. You chose neutrality, and neutrality offers no handle to grab. They still look for signs that the loss affected you. They scan your life for disruption, instability, longing. What they find instead is structure, and that tells them everything they didn't want to know. You suffered quietly, not the kind of suffering that gets applause or sympathy, but the slow, grinding kind, the kind that reshapes a person from the inside. This year didn't bruise you once, it wore you down daily. It tested your patience, your loyalty, your sense of fairness, your belief in people. It asked too much of you, and it did so through them, through their choices, through their indifference, through the way they took your presence for granted and your pain as something invisible. You didn't just suffer because of what they did. You suffered because you tried to understand it. You replayed conversations. You questioned yourself. You wondered if you were asking for too much when all you wanted was honesty, consistency, respect. You carried confusion on top of hurt, hope on top of disappointment, and that weight added up. This year demanded endurance from you. You stayed when leaving would have been easier. You explained when silence would have protected you. You forgave when boundaries were overdue. That wasn't weakness. That was love, loyalty, and faith in people who didn't know how to hold it. They saw your patience and assumed it was permanent. They saw your kindness and treated it like a resource that wouldn't run out. They mistook your empathy for tolerance and your silence for acceptance. And every time they crossed a line, you paid for it emotionally while they walked away unchanged. You paid in sleepless nights, in overthinking, in emotional exhaustion, in self-doubt that didn't belong to you. You paid in ways they never saw and never acknowledged. This year forced you to learn lessons you didn't ask for. It taught you how deeply betrayal can cut when it comes from familiar hands. It taught you how draining it is to give someone the benefit of the doubt over and over, only to watch them prove you wrong again. It taught you that being the bigger person can sometimes mean being the one who bleeds the most. And still you kept your integrity. That's what makes the shift now so powerful. Because in one day the calendar turns, and while time itself is just numbers, transitions matter. They close chapters, they draw lines, they create psychological endings. And 2026 doesn't arrive carrying your burden, it arrives carrying balance. Not revenge, not chaos. Balance. Karma doesn't show up with fireworks. It shows up with accuracy. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't rush. It waits until people are comfortable enough to think they got away with it. And then it introduces consequence, not dramatically, but consistently. You don't need to chase justice. You don't need to demand accountability. You already did the hardest part. You survived without becoming bitter. You held yourself together while being pulled apart. You grew while being tested. That growth changes the equation. In 2026, you stop paying for what they did, and that alone shifts the weight. The energy you spent enduring gets redirected into living. The attention you gave to fixing broken dynamics gets invested back into yourself. And when that happens, the universe does something interesting. It reallocates lessons. What you carried this year, they begin carrying next. Not because you wish it, not because you curse them, but because imbalance always corrects itself. They begin to feel the absence of what you provided. The steadiness, the loyalty, the emotional safety. They notice it in small ways at first. Conversations that feel hollow, support that feels conditional, people who show up only when it's convenient. The contrast becomes uncomfortable. They start realizing that what they dismissed as too much was actually rare. You gave them patience, now they face impatience. You gave them honesty, now they face manipulation. You gave them loyalty, now they face inconsistency. That's not punishment, that's reflection. 2026 doesn't attack them. It educates them. They begin to understand slowly and painfully that good people aren't interchangeable, that trust isn't automatic, that once someone chooses themselves after being mistreated, there's no undo button. They feel the loss not as heartbreak, but as destabilization, as the realization that something grounding is gone, something that made life easier, something they assumed would always be there, and they can't get it back. Meanwhile, you enter 2026 lighter, not because everything magically fixed itself, but because you stopped carrying what wasn't yours. You no longer internalize their behavior. You no longer excuse it. You no longer question your worth based on their capacity. That clarity is freedom. And freedom changes how karma works in your favor. Because karma isn't about watching someone suffer, it's about being released from suffering yourself. It's about no longer paying emotional taxes for other people's immaturity. It's about finally being reimbursed in peace. In 2026, you stop reliving. You stop explaining. You stop hoping for different outcomes from the same behavior. You choose forward. They, on the other hand, stay stuck processing the past, stuck justifying themselves, stuck noticing patterns repeat. Stuck realizing that the damage they caused didn't disappear just because you stopped talking about it. They pay in self-awareness that arrives too late. They pay in regret that doesn't change outcomes. They pay in the quiet understanding that they mishandled someone who would have stood by them when it mattered. And that understanding follows them. You don't announce your healing. You don't post about closure. You don't dramatize your growth. You simply live differently. And that difference becomes undeniable. Your boundaries become non-negotiable. Your standards become clear. Your energy becomes selective. And that version of you doesn't attract the same treatment anymore. That's karma completing the cycle. The suffering you endured this year refined you. It sharpened your discernment. It taught you when to walk away without guilt. It showed you that self-respect isn't loud, it's consistent. 2026 isn't about revenge. It's about restoration. It's about you no longer shrinking to keep peace. It's about you no longer carrying emotional labor alone. It's about you no longer paying for lessons you already learned. And as you step into this new year, the roles quietly reverse. You exhale. They reflect. You build. They process. You move forward. They look back. And the universe, impartial and precise, lets everyone experience the consequences of who they chose to be when it counted. You already paid your price in endurance, in growth, in pain turned into wisdom. Now, as 2026 arrives, the balance shifts. Not loudly, not cruelly, but completely. And as the final hours of this year fade out, something inside you settles. Not with celebration, not with noise, but with certainty. The kind that comes only after surviving something that tried to break you and failed. You don't need validation anymore. You don't need apologies. You don't even need acknowledgement. The suffering already taught you what you needed to know. You learned who shows up when it's inconvenient. You learned who listens without waiting to speak. You learned who respects boundaries without testing them. And just as importantly, you learned who doesn't. That knowledge is armor. As 2026 steps in, the emotional debts finally stop compounding for you. You're no longer paying interest on their behavior. You're no longer absorbing confusion that was never yours to solve. The mental loops quiet down. The constant analysis ends. Your nervous system exhales for the first time in months, maybe years. Peace doesn't arrive dramatically. It arrives as relief. Relief from over-explaining. Relief from justifying disrespect. Relief from carrying connections alone. And in that relief, you become unavailable for the same kind of suffering. That's when the balance truly shifts. Because when someone loses access to you, they don't just lose a person, they lose the version of themselves that felt safe, misbehaving around you. They lose the comfort of being tolerated. They lose the illusion that their actions didn't matter. In 2026, they begin facing situations that mirror what they put you through. Miscommunication, emotional distance, being taken for granted, being dismissed when they try to speak, feeling unseen, feeling replaceable, feeling like they're always the one trying harder. And for the first time, they understand. Not intellectually, experientially. That's when karma stops being a concept and becomes a feeling. They remember moments they laughed off, boundaries they ignored, words they minimized. They replay times when you were hurting and they chose convenience. And now they feel that same weight sitting on their chest, the same confusion, the same quiet heartbreak. But here's the difference. You grew through it. They resisted. You processed your pain. They avoid theirs. You learned when to walk away. They cling longer than they should. So the lesson repeats for them again and again until it lands. Meanwhile, your life begins opening in subtle ways. Not perfect, not effortless, but aligned. Opportunities that don't drain you. People who don't need convincing. Conversations that feel mutual. Support that doesn't come with conditions. You don't chase anymore. You don't prove anymore. You don't beg for clarity anymore. You attract what matches your self-respect. They didn't expect your exit to be permanent. They told themselves you were just taking space, just cooling off, just waiting to be pulled back by familiarity. What shattered them was realizing you never circled back, not out of revenge, but out of self-recognition. They feel rejected not because you left, but because you never looked back for validation. Your absence didn't beg for explanation. It stood complete on its own. They thought distance would soften you into nostalgia. Instead, distance sharpened your self-respect into something unmovable. They expected your return to confirm their importance. What broke them was discovering your return was no longer necessary. They feel rejected because your life continued without consulting their memory. You didn't pause at the door of the past. You closed it. They hoped time would weaken your decision. They didn't realize time was strengthening your boundary with every quiet day. They assumed your worth lived in their recognition of you. What unsettles them now is knowing your worth never required their approval. They feel rejected because you didn't come back to renegotiate your dignity. You kept it intact and carried it forward. They expected longing to make you pliable. They underestimated how powerfully peace can anchor someone in place. They thought your love would override your limits again. They didn't anticipate the moment your limits finally outranked your longing. They feel rejected because your silence doesn't ache for them. It doesn't call their name, it breathes without them. They are unsettled that your independence didn't look dramatic. It looked steady, and steadiness frightened them more than anger ever could. They thought you would need closure through their understanding. They didn't see that your closure arrived through self-recognition. They feel rejected because you didn't try to be understood anymore. You chose to be finished instead. They expected your memory to soften into regret. What they discovered was that your memory matured into discernment. They told themselves you would return out of habit. They didn't realize you broke the habit by changing the meaning of home. They feel rejected because your growth didn't include them. Your future stopped reserving space for their past. They hoped loneliness would send you back searching. They didn't realize solitude had become quieter than staying ever was. They assumed you would be pulled by history. They didn't account for the force of self-respect rewriting gravity. They feel rejected because your worth didn't collapse without their presence. It expanded. They believed your leaving was emotional. They didn't expect it to be philosophical, to be rooted in principle instead of pain. They feel rejected because your return would have meant they still held emotional authority over you. Your absence took that authority away. They waited for you to soften with time. They didn't realize you hardened into clarity instead. They feel rejected because you broke the unspoken agreement to always come back. You rewrote the rules without malice. They expected explanation to reopen the door. They didn't realize explanation was no longer required where certainty lived. They feel rejected because you didn't need a villain to justify your leaving. You simply needed yourself. They thought your staying had once proved your loyalty. They didn't consider your leaving would become the truest proof of it to your own life. They feel rejected because you chose yourself without apology. That kind of choice exposes every place they expected you to shrink. They believed your heart would overrule your standards again. They didn't expect your standards to finally protect your heart. They feel rejected because your future stopped narrating their relevance. They became context, not consequence. They assumed your return was an inevitability. They never prepared for your permanence. They feel rejected because you didn't come back wounded. You came back to yourself whole. They wanted your departure to hurt you more than it hurt them. What unsettles them is realizing it healed you. They feel rejected because they expected regret. What you gave them was resolution. They imagined your leaving as collapse. It became construction. They feel rejected because you didn't choose distance as punishment. You chose it as alignment. And this is the truth that finally settles into the silence they can't escape. You didn't stay away to teach them a lesson. You stayed away because you learned one. You didn't leave because you hated them. You left because you finally respected yourself. You didn't return because your worth was no longer something you were willing to bargain with. They feel rejected because they still measure value by who comes back. You don't. You measure value by who you no longer abandon yourself for. And that is why your leaving became permanent, not because they were unlovable, but because you finally became unavailable to anything that asked you, to be smaller than your worth. They keep waiting for the version of you who once doubted your own value, not realizing that version dissolved the moment you chose yourself without hesitation. They feel rejected because you didn't upgrade your life with them still attached to the blueprint. You redesigned the whole structure without keeping their shadow in the frame. They feel rejected because your healing didn't require their apology, their growth, or their acknowledgement. You healed without their participation. They believed your silence meant you were struggling. What they didn't accept was that your silence meant you were finally effortless. They feel rejected because your peace didn't wobble when their memory tried to re-enter. It stood firm like a boundary carved into stone. They assumed your identity was shaped around them. What shattered them was realizing you had an identity that thrived without them. They feel rejected because your strength looks natural now, not forced. It scares them how well it fits you. They thought your love once defined you. They didn't expect your self-respect to redefine everything. They feel rejected because your absence has weight, not emptiness. It carries intention, not longing. They believe nostalgia would pull you backward. They didn't realize nostalgia now feels foreign inside the life you built forward. They feel rejected because you didn't replace them with another version of the same mistake. You replaced the entire pattern. They assumed you would grieve them loudly. You grieved quietly and finished early. They feel rejected because they can't still reach you emotionally to confirm their importance. Your inaccessibility rewrote their role. They thought your return was a matter of timing. They didn't understand it was a matter of standards. They feel rejected because your confidence no longer seeks external permission. It stands alone. They believed your worth once depended on how deeply you loved them. They didn't realize your worth now depends on how deeply you protect yourself. They feel rejected because your life stopped referencing their relevance entirely. You moved from reaction into direction. They thought your leaving was impulsive. They didn't realize it was the most deliberate decision you ever made. They feel rejected because you didn't come back in pieces. You came back to yourself whole. They expected your strength to be temporary. They didn't expect it to become your baseline. And this is where the truth finally locks into permanent shape, beyond doubt, beyond reversal, beyond emotional negotiation. You didn't leave to be chased. You didn't leave to prove a point. You didn't leave to test their love. You left because you finally understood your value in a way that could not be unlearned. They feel rejected because they still believe that people return to what once hurt them. If they loved it enough, you prove something else entirely. You prove that love without self-respect is not loyalty, it is erosion. You prove that absence can be an act of dignity. You proved that your worth was never something they granted you. It was something you finally claimed. They feel rejected because you never went back. But the truth is simpler and far more powerful than that. You didn't go back because you never abandoned yourself again. And once that decision is made, nothing, not memory, not apology, not familiarity, has the authority to undo it. That is not rejection. That is self-sovereignty, and it is permanent. They feel rejected because your evolution did not ask for their permission. You didn't consult the past before choosing the future, and that omission unsettles them more than your departure ever did. They are disturbed because your life no longer leaks regret. It moves with forward pressure, not backward pull, and that makes their memories feel heavier than yours. They feel rejected because your joy doesn't reference them as a missing piece. It stands complete without footnotes, without apologies, without empty spaces waiting to be filled. They believed your leaving would eventually tire you out. What they didn't expect was how energizing it would become to finally live without self-betrayal. They feel rejected because your standards didn't soften with loneliness. So they're dialing numbers now, huh? Calling, texting, gossiping, whispering your name like a ghost they can't exorcise. They're desperate to know what happened to you, how you transformed, how the soft one they once mocked turned into a force that doesn't flinch, doesn't chase, doesn't explain. You've become their greatest mystery and their biggest regret. You see, once upon a time, you were predictable to them. They knew how to push your buttons, how to summon your emotions, how to twist your empathy until you broke. But something happened after the storm, didn't it? You went quiet, you went cold, and the silence became your sharpest weapon. Now they're terrified of the person who came out of that fire. You didn't just survive, you mutated. You took every scar, every betrayal, every insult, and built armor out of it. You learned that softness without boundaries is suicide. You learned that peace isn't found in their validation, but in your own indifference. And now, when they see you walking with that calm, they feel it like a slap to their ego. You don't chase anymore. You attract. You don't react. You observe. You've become unpredictable, unreadable, and to manipulators, that's the ultimate nightmare. They can't toy with what they can't control. They can't provoke what doesn't respond. Their biggest punishment? Watching you glow while they decay in confusion. Watching your calmness eat away at their delusions. Watching you walk through life untouched, unbothered, unchained. That's what haunts them. Every time they see your name pop up somewhere, every whisper of your success, it burns. Because in their mind, you were supposed to crumble. You were supposed to come crawling back, begging for crumbs of their counterfeit affection, but instead, you vanished and came back as a storm. Now, they're asking everyone what happened to you. They're calling old friends, checking social media, trying to piece together how someone they thought was weak became untouchable. Their pride can't handle it, because if you're winning without them, it means they weren't necessary, and that truth alone destroys them. You didn't announce your transformation, you showed it, quietly, relentlessly. While they played pretend, you were rebuilding. While they sought attention, you sought power. While they crafted lies, you crafted your empire of peace. They thought ghosting you would hurt you. Instead, it freed you. They thought their absence would break you. Instead, it healed you. They thought walking away would make them superior. Instead, it made them irrelevant. You see, that's the part that kills them, the irrelevance. Narcissists don't fear losing people. They fear losing control. They're not sad that you're gone, they're enraged that you no longer care. And that apathy? It's louder than any revenge could ever be. Now, every time they talk about you, there's a bitterness in their tone. They pretend you don't matter, but you can hear the tremor beneath their fake laughter. They'll tell others you changed. But deep down, they know they created the very change that destroyed them. Your evolution is poetic justice. The manipulator is now the one obsessed. The liar is now haunted by truth. The betrayer now yearns for the loyalty they threw away. Karma didn't come knocking on their door, you became it. They're addicted to knowing how you became this calm, this dangerous, this radiant. But they'll never find the answer, because you outgrew the dimension they live in. They still dwell in gossip and games, while you dwell in silence and strategy. You didn't get this strong to prove a point. You did it because you had to. Because somewhere between all the pain and the chaos, you realized that your peace was the ultimate rebellion. You stopped feeding their ego, and that's when they starved. And oh, how they starve now. For your attention, for your reaction, for your warmth. But those days are over. You don't pour into empty cups anymore. You don't fix what was designed to break you. You don't dance for the applause of fools. You became something they can't define. They can't put you in a box anymore. Are you calm? Are you cold? Are you plotting? They don't know, and that uncertainty is pure torture for their inflated ego. Every move you make now drips with purpose. Every word you speak carries weight. You're not playing defense anymore, you're dictating the game. And they hate that. They hate that the person they underestimated turned into their mirror, reflecting everything ugly about them. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them try to diagnose your glow. Their confusion is your coronation. Their curiosity is your crown. They're spectators now, watching a show they can never again be a part of. And you've mastered the art of quiet revenge. Not with cruelty, but with excellence. Not by fighting, but by thriving. Because the sweetest revenge isn't payback, it's peace. The kind that can't be shaken, even when they whisper your name like a curse. They can't believe you're this unbothered. That's the irony. They tried to destroy your peace, and instead, they built it. Every betrayal was a brick, every insult a tool, every loss a lesson. And now you're untouchable. You became the blueprint they can't imitate. They study you now, the way you walk, the way you carry yourself, the way you no longer flinch at their games. You've become their silent obsession, their living karma. You no longer have to prove your worth, your existence alone does that. Your glow, your poise, your strength, all of it screams one truth they can't bear to face. They lost the best thing that ever happened to them. And oh, how beautifully they lost it. Not through chaos, but through calm. not through fighting but through silence. You walked away, and the sound of your footsteps became the echo that haunts their nights. They'll keep dialing, keep asking, keep wondering, but no answer will come. Because the version of you they once knew is gone, dead, buried, reborn into someone untouchable. And that, my friends, is the real horror story. Not the loss of love, not the end of a relationship, but the death of control. The realization that the puppet has cut the strings and is now dancing on its own stage. So let them panic, let them gossip, let them choke on curiosity. For the first time, they're feeling what they made you feel: uncertainty, confusion, powerlessness. And you're just watching from the shadows with a smile, the kind that makes the devil jealous, because now you finally understand peace looks good on you. Their fear, their regret, their sleepless nights, that's their penance, that's their karma. And you don't even have to lift a finger. The game is over. You won not because you destroyed them, but because you rebuilt yourself. Stronger, colder, wiser. They tried to end you, and instead, they created your legend. And now, as they scroll through your life from the sidelines, they can't help but notice something different: that aura, that unshakable calm that wasn't there before. It's not arrogance, it's not revenge, it's evolution. You wear your silence like a crown, and it terrifies them because they finally see what real power looks like, the kind that doesn't have to shout. You see, narcissists thrive on noise, chaos, arguments, emotional reactions. That's their fuel. But you cut off the supply. You became too quiet, too grounded, too focused. And when they realized their favorite source of attention had turned inward, they panicked, because your indifference, that's the one thing they can't manipulate. Now, when they tell your story to others, they sound like broken records. They try to paint you as the villain, but their voice cracks every time they do. Because deep down, they know it's not the truth that hurts them. It's your growth. It's your glow. It's the realization that their lies couldn't bury you, they only planted you. And here you are, rising from the dirt, laughing softly at the irony. They thought they were burying you, but they were just giving you soil to grow roots. Every tear watered your strength. Every heartbreak forged your discipline. And now, your peace is their punishment. Your silence, their sentence. So let them keep wondering, keep calling, keep trying to decipher the mystery that you've become. The truth is simple: they'll never understand what happened to you because they were never meant to. You evolved beyond their comprehension. You turned their betrayal into art, their cruelty into creation, and their chaos into calm. And that, my friend, is what drives them insane. You were soft once, weren't you? Gentle, kind, the type of soul that believed in healing people who were never ready to heal themselves. You believed love could fix what rot had already consumed. You thought if you gave enough, forgave enough, smiled enough, you could change them. But they mistook that sweetness for weakness. They fed on your kindness, drained your empathy, and laughed behind your back thinking they won. They never realized that the same heart they played with would one day stop beating for them. They took your warmth and your patience as an invitation to exploit. You offered them peace, and they returned it with chaos. They thought you'd never walk away because your loyalty blinded you to your own worth. Oh, how wrong they were. Because one day, something inside you broke, or maybe it awakened. And from that day forward, you were no longer their savior. You became their storm. Now, they're about to meet the version of you that doesn't flinch, doesn't beg, and doesn't bleed for anyone. You've evolved beyond emotion. You've sharpened your spirit into something unrecognizable. They used to think they could predict you, that they could manipulate your reactions. But the new you doesn't react. You calculate. You move in silence. You move like a ghost through the ruins they created. They played games, thinking you'd never learn the rules. But now, you hold the deck, and every card is marked with their name. They taught you deceit, manipulation, and betrayal, and you learned fast, too fast. You became what they feared most, someone they can't control, someone they can't read. They wanted a puppet, but they built a player. Your silence now speaks louder than any words you could ever say. Your indifference burns hotter than your old affection ever did. Every time they see your face, it stings. Because that face used to look at them with love, now it looks at them like a memory. That's what haunts them. The fact that you remember everything and forgive nothing. They thought your sweetness was eternal. They thought no matter how many times they twisted the knife, you'd still smile, still stay, still care. But even the softest rose grows thorns when it's mishandled too many times. You were gentle, but not weak. And now, you've stopped watering the garden that only grew weeds. Once upon a time, you gave warnings with kindness. Now, your silence is the warning. They never realized how cold a person can become when every ounce of warmth is stolen from them. Now they know. They can feel the frost in the air every time your name is mentioned. They'll see brutality not in your words, not in your hands, but in your peace. The calmness you carry now is lethal, because your brutality isn't chaos, it's indifference. You don't fight, you don't chase, you don't explain, you just don't care. And that terrifies them. They're not afraid of your rage, they're afraid of your control. Because when you smile now, it's not a smile of love, it's a smile of knowing. You've seen their true colors and you survived it. That kind of calmness, it's power. And it's a power they'll never understand. You used to be a candle trying to light their darkness. But candles burn out when they give too much, so you stopped burning and turned into fire. Now, they can't even stand your glow without getting scorched. They wanted your warmth, but they forgot what happens when warmth turns to heat. Their biggest mistake was thinking you'd never leave. Their second biggest mistake was thinking you'd never change. But you didn't just walk away, you ascended. You left the game entirely, and now they're left playing by themselves. You're the ghost in the room they can't forget. They whispered lies about you, hoping it would ruin your name. But all it did was expose theirs. People started watching, listening, noticing, and suddenly, the story didn't sound right. Because your evolution spoke louder than their gossip. You became living proof that no smear campaign can kill the truth. You no longer need revenge. Your success is revenge. Your peace is revenge. Every laugh, every breath of joy, every silent victory, it all cuts deeper than any word you could ever throw. You became untouchable the moment you stopped caring. They'll remember your gentleness, your kindness, the softness in your eyes. And now, that memory will haunt them, because they killed that version of you with their own hands and they can't bring it back. They'll miss the way you used to care, but it's gone, buried, peacefully. You're not cruel, you're just done. Done bleeding for people who never deserved your wounds. Done explaining yourself to ears that never listened. Done watering people who were never roots, just parasites. And that's not cruelty, that's wisdom. They'll call you heartless now, cold, unfeeling, but they'll never understand that this version of you was born in their chaos. You didn't wake up cold, you were frozen by their betrayal. Now, you simply refuse to thaw for anyone who doesn't deserve the heat. Every time they see your new self, they'll wonder how you did it, how you turned pain into power, how you transformed heartbreak into armor. But they'll never get the answer, because the moment they broke you, they lost the right to understand you. They'll test you again. They'll poke the past, hoping to see if it still hurts. But you'll just smile, that cold, quiet smile, and watch them squirm. Because pain doesn't live there anymore. Peace does. You stop chasing closure. You stop chasing explanations. You stop chasing them. Now, you only chase peace, and peace looks damn good on you. That's what burns them most. The fact that they couldn't destroy you. Every rumor they spread became another brick in your empire. Every insult they threw became fuel. They thought breaking you would silence you. Instead, It birthed a legend. They'll never say it out loud, but deep down, they know they created this version of you. They forced you to evolve, and now, you've surpassed them in every way possible. You're not the victim anymore, you're the warning. You're the proof that people can't play with hearts and walk away untouched. They'll watch you from afar, whispering, analyzing, obsessing, because the silence you left behind echoes louder than their noise ever did. You became the ghost they can't exorcise. You no longer exist in their world, but they exist in yours, as lessons. Their names are chapters you'll never reread, and that's what kills them. They're trapped in the story you've already finished. So now, every time they think of you, they'll feel a shiver down their spine. Because the one they mocked, the one they underestimated, the one they betrayed became something greater. You are not cold, you're just precise. You don't react, you decide. You don't beg, you choose. You don't chase, you attract. And every move you make now, they feel it like a tremor under their feet. They'll call you changed. You'll call it freedom. Because they'll never understand that the death of the old you wasn't tragedy, it was transformation. You didn't lose yourself. You found yourself in the ruins they left behind. And now, you walk with that eerie calmness, that terrifying peace that only survivors know. So the next time they see you calm, distant, dangerous, they'll whisper, "What happened to you?" And with that wicked little smirk, you'll tilt your head and say, "You did." They'll feel that answer echo through their bones, "You did." It's the truth they'll never recover from, because it forces them to face what they've done. Every sleepless night, every moment of silence, every haunting reminder of what they lost, it all ties back to that simple fact. They were the architects of their own downfall, and you were just the mirror reflecting it back at them. Now, they chase distractions, dive into fake smiles, try to fill the void with temporary people, but nothing hits the same. Because deep down they know what they lost wasn't replaceable. It wasn't luck. It wasn't coincidence. It was divine. You were a once-in-a-lifetime energy that they treated like it was disposable, and God doesn't give second chances like that twice. They'll try to convince themselves you were the problem, that you changed, that you became too cold, too distant, too powerful. But that's the thing, isn't it? They mistake evolution for arrogance. They mistake boundaries for bitterness. They mistake peace for punishment. But you know better, you simply outgrew the chaos they still feed on. And one day, when they see you glowing, not just surviving, but thriving, they'll feel that mix of awe and agony. Because no matter how much they try to forget, your energy will follow them like a curse. A silent reminder that they once had the sun, and they chose the shade. So when they come crawling back, trembling with guilt and regret, you won't need to raise your voice or seek revenge. You'll just smile that quiet, knowing smile, and let them realize on their own that your forgiveness was the last mercy they'll ever get. Ah, that smile. That small, almost invisible smirk, the one you gave right after they threw their insult like a dagger, that's what haunts them. They expected tears. They expected rage. They expected to see you crumble under their venom. But instead, you smiled. A quiet, dangerous, unbothered smile. And that moment, that tiny flicker of calm, it terrified them more than any scream ever could. You see, they thought they had power over your emotions. They believed they could push the right buttons, twist the right words, and watch you explode. But when you smiled, when you gave them nothing but silence wrapped in confidence, they realized something horrifying. You were no longer theirs to control. That smirk became a mirror, reflecting their own insignificance. It told them everything they refused to admit: that their insults don't pierce anymore, that their manipulation has expired, and that the version of you they could toy with no longer exists. It eats them alive, doesn't it? The idea that their words bounce off you now like bullets against armor. That smirk said, "Try harder." That smile whispered, "You don't matter anymore." And deep down they know it. They felt their own power drain the second you didn't flinch. Because power, my dear, has always been about reaction. And when you stop reacting, when you give them peace instead of chaos, you steal the throne right from under them. That little smile was your silent revolution. They walk around now, replaying that moment in their minds, over and over, wondering what you meant, wondering if you knew, wondering how you could still look so calm after they tried to humiliate you. They didn't expect strength and serenity. They didn't expect you to weaponize silence. You broke the game the moment you stopped playing it. You burned the entire board just by not moving your piece. That's what they can't handle, that they built their entire identity around controlling you, and now you've rewritten the rules. You didn't need revenge. You didn't need words. You didn't even need to prove them wrong. That smile, that small, haunting smirk did it all. It spoke a language only the guilty understand. It said, "I see through you." It said, "You never stood a chance." Now they avoid your eyes. They can't stand looking at you for too long, because every glance feels like confession. They thought they could bury you under shame, but now they're the ones buried under regret. You've become the ghost that won't leave their conscience. Every time they close their eyes, they see that smile. That moment when they realized you were untouchable. When they realized the storm they tried to unleash only forged steel in your veins. And oh, how poetic it is, they thought they broke you, but they were merely sculpting your power. They thought they silenced you, but all they did was amplify your presence. They didn't realize that the calmest faces often hide the most dangerous minds. You're not angry anymore, and that's what scares them most, because anger, they can fight. Silence? No. Silence is unpredictable. It's the calm before a reckoning. It's the storm that doesn't announce itself. They call you cold now, detached, unfeeling, but that's just projection. What they really mean is they can't reach you anymore. They can't read you, can't wound you, can't make you bleed for their entertainment. You've ascended above their noise, and now they choke on it. That smile was your goodbye, not just to them, but to who you were when you cared, when you tried, when you explained. That person died the moment you smiled through the pain. They think you've changed, but the truth is, you've just awakened. The pain that once consumed you has turned into armor. Their insults, once wounds, are now war medals. And now you're the calm villain in their story, the one who doesn't need chaos to win, the one who simply exists, radiating power while they spiral in their own undoing. You've become everything they feared, unbothered, self-contained, radiant with quiet rage disguised as peace. It's funny, isn't it? They wanted to break you, yet you're the one who broke the illusion. You revealed how weak they truly are, how fragile their ego becomes when they realize their control is gone. That smile was your declaration of independence. It said, "You can't touch me anymore." It said, "I'm done being your victim," and that terrifies them beyond words. They talk about you now like you're some kind of myth. They call you cold, ruthless, heartless, but those are just names they give to people they can't manipulate anymore. You're not heartless, you're healed. You're not ruthless, you're reborn. Every rumor they spread, every whisper they drop, every lie they tell, it's all fueled by fear. Because your strength exposes their weakness. Your composure makes their chaos visible. You've become their reminder that you can't destroy someone who has already walked through hell and come out smiling. That's what eats them alive every night. You smile because you've seen worse and they know it. Now they avoid your presence. They flinch at your calm. They smile awkwardly when your name is mentioned. Because behind every fake grin they give, there's a storm of regret they can't hide. You see, your silence humbles them, your peace punishes them, your growth embarrasses them. And that smile, that tiny, knowing curve on your lips, it's the crown they never wanted you to wear. Let them choke on their guilt. Let them wrestle with their sleepless nights. Because you didn't destroy them, you let them destroy themselves. You handed them the mirror, and now they can't stand what they see. They wanted to see you broken. Instead, they saw you unbothered. They wanted to see you beg. Instead, you smiled. They wanted a reaction. Instead, you gave them indifference, and that's what broke them. So now, when you walk into a room, everything stops. The air thickens. They can feel it, that aura, that quiet power, that ghost of their failure lingering behind your every step. You've become the lesson they'll never forget. The one they'll warn others about but secretly admire. The one they'll curse under their breath while secretly wishing they could be like. And every time they remember the way you smiled that day, they'll flinch a little. Because that smile wasn't just a reaction, it was a prophecy. A silent message that said, "You'll regret this." And now, every time they scroll through the remnants of your old conversations, every time they see a picture of you, or hear your name whispered in a crowded room, that smile echoes. It echoes louder than any scream, louder than any argument, louder than any goodbye. It's not a smile anymore, it's a memory that taunts them. It's the moment they realized they lost control. The moment they understood that the person they once dismissed as too soft had become something far beyond their reach. You see, your silence became the music they can't escape. It plays in their head when they try to sleep. It follows them into new relationships, new friendships, new crowds. Because no matter how much they try to move on, they can't forget the person who smiled through betrayal and turned pain into composure. They can't forget how you refused to fall apart when everyone expected you to. That smile, that was your revenge. Not through vengeance, not through violence, but through evolution. And now they watch you from afar, pretending not to care, pretending not to notice your glow. But they see it. Oh, they see it all. The way you walk differently now. The way your presence commands attention. The way people listen when you speak. They see the strength in your silence, the danger in your calm, and they whisper among themselves, what happened to them? But you know what happened. You stopped bleeding for people who never would have handed you a bandage. They thought your kindness was weakness, your forgiveness was naivety. But all this time, it was strategy. You were watching, learning, transforming. You became the architect of your own redemption, and they became the architects of their own downfall. Every insult, every betrayal, every lie they told, it was just another brick in the empire you were quietly building. And now, from your throne of peace, you watch them stumble in the ruins of their own deceit. You don't even need to speak anymore. Your presence is enough. Your existence is proof that resilience is the most dangerous weapon. They can't compete with someone who doesn't play their games. They can't control someone who doesn't need their validation. That's why your peace feels like a punishment to them, because it's proof that they failed. They failed to break you. They failed to own you. They failed to matter. And yet, despite everything, you don't hate them. That's what drives them insane. You don't waste your breath on revenge or your energy on resentment. You've outgrown the battlefield entirely. You've evolved into something colder, sharper, a quiet storm wrapped in poise. They wanted you shattered, but you turned into ice, unbreakable, beautiful, deadly. So smile again, won't you? Not for them, but for yourself. Smile because you survived what was meant to destroy you. Smile because they'll never have that power again. Smile because every time you do, the ghosts of their guilt tremble. Because deep down, they know the truth that your peace is their punishment, and your smile is the reminder that the game is over and you won.